Forgot my mic. All right. Aloha, beautiful spirit. It's Galita here, and today I'm going to tell you a story about what I've learned from the first time and the last time that I went to visit and heal a past life. It's a very personal story, but I'm told that I should share it with you because it will help you on your path in your spiritual journey. So I do a lot of self-healing with myself because that's the way that I believe that I heal not only myself, but also the collective. So I do that very often. And there is nothing more joyful than working and playing with my guides. And I'm sure that if you are living like that, you know what I'm talking about. So I'm a person who sometimes travels through dimensions. I love it. This is what's the biggest fun thing is to leave and come back to our body. But I think that I'm a person who like to jump into capsules in time, because when I work with other people or with myself about healing, then you see that we are getting into time and space that got frozen or stuck or are lost somewhere. And actually, I think this what healing is. It's in shamanism, we call it soul retrieval, but it's basically this journeying into places and time and space that holds that thing that is lost or frozen, as I said. So I was going to bed, closing my eyes, and I felt a very strong sense of feeling an orphan, as if I'm an orphan. And that's very interesting because a month before, I had a whole few weeks of healing a very deep wounds of being orphaned in my life and in, of course, other times. I know the subject well. I felt that last month I healed and released a lot of things. So when I felt I feel as an orphan, I thought, let's jump into that capsule and see what's there. And maybe I can help it transform just before I go to bed, which is some of the best times to do this kind of work. So I closed my eyes and I followed the process. And then I found myself in another lifetime. And when I was sensing the circumstances and the person was in the woods, and I was in the present of a part of myself in another life, it was the end of the 18th century, it was somewhere in Britain, rural area, and then I went like, oh, I know this lifetime. I've been here before. I mean, as myself, Galita, I was here before. And then I realized that I'm visiting the first lifetime I've ever visited when I needed regression therapy. So this is the biggest thing that I wanted to share. And I will start with the fact that the first session happened in around 1992. The reason why I did it was I had physical issues, infections, and I did regression therapy with a person for the first time. So now, like God knows how long, almost 28 years later, I went back into that lifetime, but then the whole approach was very different. So that's why I feel I learned a lot from this, and I wanted to share that with you. So I'll tell you what happened in 1992. So I was a young person. I left my country and I came to Amsterdam. I started to live my dream and perform and create productions, and I started my own production company, and I put shows together and a lot of things. At the same time, I was going and processing a lot of grief about the reasons why I left my country and things in my family. I was going through a lot emotionally and mentally. I didn't really realize that. But I had a period, it was a whole year, that every 2 months I had the same kind of infection that I needed to go to the doctor. In Holland, you have to beg for your medication because they always go, no, go home, and in 3 days, if you still suffer, then come back. It was like a nightmare. So every time I felt this infection coming, I no, not again. And then in the beginning of the 90s in Amsterdam, there was maybe one or two centers that had something to do with spirituality. And I went into a lecture, and that was actually the beginning of where I met American people who were exposing or teaching us shamanism. It was really, really amazing. And in a session, in one of these talks, there was a woman who was visiting for a short time, and she was working with regression therapy. She was working with past life. I didn't know anything about that. It was, I don't know. But the option to try to address this issue after I tried everything to stop having all these infections, which I was suffering for years, that's another story. But this particular infection just drove me nuts. So when she suggested I come to a session, I thought, what do I have to lose? Let's learn something new. And I went into a session in a very small room on the canal in Amsterdam. She borrowed it from a friend because she didn't live here. And she took me through a meditation. I was lying down, and she helped me to go back into a past life. Now, I never did that before, so I had my rational mind asking questions. So I saw something. I felt something. And she was asking me questions that helped me to anchor myself in that time. And my rational mind goes like, what is this? It looks like a movie, like I'm in a movie. I could literally look at my hands, and it was not this hand, it was other. What is that? But what was interesting is that my emotional body, I know now, I was just so emotional. I was so touched. I felt things that I don't know as myself. I don't know those kind of feelings. So it was like, well, if it's just a movie in my head, then why do I feel so intensely? My whole body was like reacting to this, what I was feeling. And what I was feeling, I was a young woman in Britain. It was the end of the 18th century. It was 1870 something, was like that time. I was a servant. And what blew me away is that I had nobody. I had nobody in my life. Around me, there was nobody. There was no love, no family, no nothing. And that really shocked me because I don't know that feeling from this life. I grew up into a family, into extended family, inside a very small and very close village. I belong to a country that is small and people are tied up. I mean, like and in my case, when I was coming to the world, there were so many people waiting for me. That was one of the best things that happened to me in this lifetime, because I also came with a program that I'm an orphan and nobody cares for me. And my whole life, I tried to figure out why do I feel unloved and that nobody cares for me? When I was when my mother was pregnant, my grandparents were literally holding her on their hands so she would be cared for. And my grandmother fed her dates so the baby will be healthy. I mean, I was received so well in this lifetime. And in that lifetime, there was nobody. There was no friends. There was no family. There was no parents. And the people I worked with was so lonely. Life of a servant, with a house that didn't have a lot of servants, so it was really small country life. And the only thing what I had, and that also blew my mind away, was the memory of my father. All of my strength I was holding from the memory of my father that loved me. And that's also something that in this lifetime I don't really have. I have a lovely father. I learned to accept him with the years, but I never had a strong connection with my physical, this father. But in that lifetime, the picture, what I hanged all of my well-being was the memory of my loving father. So right away, I'm lying there, crying my eyes out, knowing that I'm visiting this lifetime in order to heal some of my infections, trouble. Oh, that was amazing. Okay, so then the wise woman who knows how to do that asked me to visit the place, the time and space where the trouble that I'm meeting then in 1992 as Galita started. And then I see myself going in the forest. When I say forest, it was like lots of trees, lots of forest between houses and villages. It was not like forest in the wilderness. It was forest that you go from here to the church and you pass through, kind of half forest, half villagey thing. And that was the place where I was, the only place where I could have some solitude to myself. And I like sometimes to escape there and to lean on a tree and dream. Oh, I feel so sorry for her. What a lifetime. Anyway, so I was going in this forest and suddenly I was feeling sense of danger. And then I heard voices and I felt danger of being trapped. So later I've learned lots of my programs of fear of being trapped also came from this horrible lifetime. And there were 3 men there that were very not nice, not good energy. It was, everything about it was horrible. And I felt attacked, and I was attacked, and I knew that something very horrible happened to me with them, but I could not remember what. I just felt like I blocked out. And the woman said, maybe it's not necessary for you to remember, maybe on that time you even blocked out, but if it's blocked out, it doesn't mean that you have to remember what happened. Just remember before and remember after. So I woke up and it was dark and I was bleeding from different places. And it was like a horror movie. And of course I was late to go back to my work. And the thing that was also surprised me is that I could not have shared with anybody what happened, because it will be my shame, my fault, and I would lose my work. I was crying so much on this because it was tapping to such collective pain that we have as humans. If we are working with healing humanity and the earth, then we come into places like that how the world was unfair. It's still happening, but of course we are evolving, so things are getting better. But so I sneaked into the house, I washed myself, and part of me was frozen in trauma, which is, of course, I realized later, this is what I was meeting in my life now, and my part of my body was going like, we need your attention, we need your consciousness, we need to look at this, we need to open this capsule. Okay, so, the misery of that lifetime didn't end because I found myself to be pregnant, which was impossible, not allowed. There was no way. There was nobody I could talk to, and there was nobody I could share it, and there was nobody that could comfort me. I was just a young woman. Then I lost a baby, and I buried it by myself in the forest with secrecy. And this secret was the thing that was poisoning my life now. So I know it sounds like a depressing nightmare, but there's hope. Yay. Okay, so, but the hope didn't happen in that lifetime. Because the other thing that was happening, which I learned a lot from, is while I was laying on the table, my hips, I was keep doing this arching. She was saying I'm trying to get out of my body, and she was gently pushing my pelvis into the floor, into the table, so I can go through it and heal it. So then I also learned and later worked with, also with other people, that sometimes sexual trauma is in that area. And then sometimes we are bending our body, like if you go to a ballet and they teach you how to stand, your pelvis is always wrong. Or out of alignment. If you do yoga and it's out of alignment, sometimes it's because there's trauma that needs to be addressed. And I'm saying that because I know someone needs to hear this to go like, why can't I never do this yoga pose? But actually through yoga and through practice, you can also clear the capsula of trauma. So then the woman asked me, I was exhausted. I was crying already 2 hours about me and about the world and about the feminine force in the world, all things that later became my work or my passion. So wait a second, let's focus. So then she asked me, okay, we got what we needed to go. We understood, or we came in touch with a place where the capsule of trauma is. Then she asked me to see how this lifetime ended. I could not see anything nice about this lifetime. It was really one of the lifetimes that you don't forget, and you have to come back and heal things. So she asked me how this life ended, and I thought, oh, maybe that's going to be a bit nice. No, it was not nice. So I was walking down the street. It was a very small town somewhere in Great Britain. And a lord with his, 4 horses, so he was a really rich person. They were going down the road, and I don't know if I didn't watch or they just didn't stop. I got hit by the horse, and I was thrown to the side. I really, shaved half of my one side of the body. Some nice people came to help me, but then this lord came out of the carriage. And then I don't remember the exact words now, but then I heard it very clearly. He said something like that filth blocked his momentum. I interrupted his very important whatever. And when I was on the floor, hurting and bleeding on one side of my body, saw this man coming out of the carriage just to insult and curse me, I kind of suddenly I knew that I was nothing. And in that moment, I lost the will to live. And that's very interesting because I met this capsule also in this lifetime. And it's not only mine, it's also my family line. And it's also, there's a lot of things that we are touching sometimes. If we heal ourselves, we are really giving that healing information to a lot of other things that are connected to us with our physical DNA, with our soul DNA. It's very interesting. It's very important work to heal ourselves. I always say that. So I lost the will to live, and I kind of already started to leave my body. So technically how I died is that my wound, my blood got infected, and I died from blood infection. But it was because I went, I don't want to be here anymore. Which makes me now a really compassionate person because I know how horrific it is. So this is also another thing that I've learned from healing. You become more compassionate when you are touching your own traumas, and you can relate to people who are having traumas in this lifetime. So that's why I'm always encouraging people to, was too much in the dark, to look into that. So let's go back to 3 days ago when I went to the feeling, to this vague feeling, I feel an orphan, which I felt was left over from my previous one, was when I came back into this forest, and actually I was looking at myself then in this lifetime, and I saw it's just very defeated looking young woman that I was. And I realized, hey, I'm in the same lifetime I was the first time I ever did regression therapy. But this time I have tools, and I could take the healing to the next level. So I connected to her and I told her that I am her future self. I'm from the future. And in the future, she will be empowered woman with a loving family, with the right for expression. And just meeting with her was very healing for her and for me, of course. And what I did is that I gave her a healing session and I connected her to her column of light. I connected her to the spirit world, to the wholeness, to the divine, which even that she was going to church and all of those things and obeying everything, she was not connected. She was really cut off. And I connected her through her body into Mother Earth. So suddenly she was in a column of light that she was from her heart power, which she had, lovely, lovely heart, was connected to the whole. And from that moment, she was never alone again. So I helped that light to change the timeline, to empower her from inside and to let her live with connection and not the hell of separation. So this is what I've learned from our past lives, from the first one, the last one. First is that going into a capsule of trauma in any time, and even if you do it to yourself or to your client or to a family member, it's the same kind of process. It's such a profound experience. It's adding such a perspective and dimension to the way that we live. It's enriching our heart. And like in my case, it heals physical problems, because after this regression therapy that I had in 92, I had a week later, I had an infection that was like, oh my God. And I called that woman and I thought, what? And she said, sometimes it needs to leave the body. Sometimes it gets worse before it gets better, this kind of thing. And after that, I didn't have it anymore for years. And when I had it again, years later, it was to remind me to tune into another level of healing. That was brilliant. The second thing is that you have everything you need. You have all of the tools of your spirit, your body, your heart, your mind, which I call the four voices, and the whole element, the fire, the earth, the water and the air, to heal yourself, to expand yourself, to repair yourself, to of course, to manifest yourself. If you know that you have those tools, if you own them, if you connect to them, you get a healthy and abundant flood of help and support, because that's what the divine and all who are working for the divine, all of light workers and starseed, that's what we want for you. To remember who you are and get connected to this endless power so you can fulfill your joy and your mission, like I say, your soul mission, your heart mission, your life mission, and bring yourself with the full volume, with the full voice, with the full color into the table, and then pass it on. So, and join I feel these things from this wonderful, I love it. So this is what I wanted to share with you about what I've learned. And if you ever did a regression therapy and you had an experience that illuminated you, please share it. I would like to hear. And if there is something in your life that you feel is stuck and that you need to release it, try to go within and address this place. And there's so many techniques. I'm teaching and sharing so many techniques that you can do that. And I also want to say that we live now in the time where everything is really fast. If you just think it or wish for it, and you have no resistance, and it just comes. In the past, when I tell you from my own memory, from 1,000 years ago, it was much harder to make things manifest, because there were such layers of darkness and gap between us and the light. And now this gap is closing. We are connecting, and we are bringing it in, and we're sending it out. And that's also the bringing light down, light up. So I recommend to you to listen to yourself and find how to come into your own capsules and lifetime. And if you need a therapist, like a regression therapist, to do that, or a shamanic healer like me, it's basically the same work. Do that. Go explore who you are, what you still need to learn about yourself, and how to manifest yourself in the world. So, and share with me how you are feeling this and how you are going to implement it. I would like to know. So thank you, beautiful spirit, and I'm honored that I can share this with you, and I hope it was useful.